I really appreciate the recording from last week.
Sure. Okay, good, good. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me because it's so easy for me to forget to record.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure I get a chance to do all these fun things.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I'm probably not going to do any of it on the class today.
Oh, you're not, you're gonna leave early?
Well, I have to leave at 10:30.
Okay, all right, well, yeah, that is, yeah. Right, so do you have any special questions now, Liz, that I could answer before we get started? Because we're just waiting for a few more people to join us.
Well, the main question that I have, I was, it was sort of reminded by looking at the color chart that Prilly held up.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I would love to do more exploration with color and combining colors and creating a palette. And I'm just wondering if you can recommend a class about that, or if Golden has some things you can do with that. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed by that color chart and how many different tubes you could buy, or how many different kinds of paint you could buy. It's like, well, which ones do I really need?
Well,
how do I make those decisions?
because I was going to show the color chart that I recommend. This is it, 6 colors plus black and white. And you really don't need other colors, Liz, unless you happen to really love a color, in which case go for it. But
and that chart, have you sent us?
Yeah, I can email. I can take a photograph of this.
Yeah, take a picture of that, because that would be good.
Yeah, because and I mean, this is color mixing, and it's I have a video about it, which I can send you to, which is all about color mixing. Which could be
and not just mixing, but creating a palette, creating like a group of colors that go together that you want to put together in your painting. And figuring out, because I feel like I'm just kind of randomly throwing stuff together,
Right.
And I never quite know, does this really go with that? Did I by chance stick this other green in there that really doesn't go? Is it distracting?
Well, so I have a very different take about color in my kind of classes. It depends on what you're looking for. Like, I teach abstract classes, and my feeling about color is that it's intuitive, and that you discover it and you use it expressively. So there is no right or wrong, but other teachers will have much more strong feelings about that. And you can take a color class and they're all over the place. I mean, you can find, Concord Art, I think, has one. I mean, if you're interested in color mixing, as a class, you could find a workshop on that.
Yeah.
So I have a, kind of a different take on it.
Okay. Yeah.
So, hi, Judy.
Hi.
Oh, here's
Sorry, I'm a little late.
All right. And
I actually tuned into YouTube instead of.
Oh my goodness.
How come I'm wearing a different color top? Oh, it's something. Whatever.
Hi, Robin. All right. So, Phyllis, are you there? She looks like she's connecting to audio. I'm just going to get started.
Her grandchild is there.
I know. So I'm assuming she's behind that. I'm not sure that Alex is going to join us. I didn't hear from her, but we'll keep it open. She may drift in. Let's see. Yes, and also Kathy. So we're missing a couple people, but I'm just going to get into it. So how did everybody do this week? So I had a little homework for you just in prep for this class today, but as we said, today being the last class will be the day that I hope to try to tie up the loose ends, and as you can see, this is, the focus of this class has been on the nuts and bolts of acrylic and not about art making with it, and so there are lots of techniques, there's so much stuff out there. The rest, I think, is to either, find a class that's more specific to, the way that you want to use your paints, or to find, as Liz was saying, how do I learn more about color mixing? Is there a specific workshop or class? Yes, there probably is. I don't teach one at the moment, but you can find them, and just so much of this is really about finding what is it that you're really drawn to, and sort of in on the techniques for that particular way of working. Does that make any sense? Like there's a zillion
Yeah.
different ways to approach this out there. And like, for example, Judy, you said you were really interested in continuing with uh, pastels, for example, and what kind of grounds are best to use for that, sort of figuring out, okay, that's what I want to work on. Let me start with that. And then, little by little, your horizons can widen, and you can start to include all these different things. But really, just to recap, what my intention was here is for you to see the varieties, to get an understanding of how this stuff actually works. Because once you get the mechanics of it, you understand that there's viscosity underlines everything we talk about, and it's what makes why we have so many bottles and jars of all this stuff. It really is what makes it kind of confusing for the beginner, just to understand, okay, how does it all work? Then it's easier for you to plow through it and figure out, what it is that you need to achieve what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, the issue of all this stuff, and it took me back, or takes me back to teaching. I mean, I haven't taught in a few years, but
Yeah.
whenever I was teaching, drawing 101 or basic design, or I never taught painting, never took a course, but I taught all the other fundamentals. And there was always, I always urged students to like limit their tools and materials when they started, because otherwise it just goes crazy. Like, okay,
It's overwhelming.
charcoal, don't bring your pastels today, just charcoal or whatever it is. And so I'm thinking that that's kind of where I'm going to go, I think, from here. Like if I want to start making a painting,
Yeah.
I'm going to like pull out 3 things and work with it or something, because it's too much.
It's too much. Exactly. And, the fact of the matter is, you don't need all of the stuff. You simply need 6 colors, plus black and white is in my impression. I was going to send everybody a copy of, this is my palette that I recommend for my students. And now everybody's going to have different ones. But yes, exactly, to even just start with water as your medium and your set of acrylic paints, and play with it. It's fine. You don't need any of these mediums. They extend your paint, so you save money, but you really don't need them. You can go fine with water, and do great stuff with the viscosities. Basic a heavy body viscosity. You don't need all this stuff. And so that can get in your way. That can really stop you, because you look at this and say, oh, I need all this stuff. You don't need all this stuff. Yeah, you really don't. In fact, when I'm teaching other classes and they're all based on acrylics, I never get into this stuff, because I know that people will just, like, their eyes will glaze over. It's too much. And then they just stop. They're just like, oh. So I don't want you to feel this way. This was very specific, how to use all this stuff, just to know that it's out there. And so, I really want to make sure that we all understand this basic stuff, that, it's the polymer emulsion that comes in a variety of viscosities. That stuff that is in this little bottle is paint without the pigment. That's it. It's very, very simple, really. And to get that, and to really confidently say, yeah, I can play with this stuff. I know that it's not going to fall off or crack off. It can be intermixed with anything that is water-based, because it's water-based. The basic stuff of it is, underlines everything and should guide you as you work. But yes, you're right. Start simple. Start simple. You don't need to know it all. And much of this stuff you'll never use, because it may not ever apply to what you're trying to do. And I worry a little bit about the sort of, getting too much into these. They almost can become gimmicks or cute things that we end up doing, because it's like, it's like not necessary. You know, you want to use the paint to get what you want. And some of these cool things that they do, they're cool, but how are you going to use them in an expressive way, in a meaningful way? That is the $64 question.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we all know that, you know, you have to limit what you're trying, you know, limit it to, and then slowly broaden when you need to. Yeah, it's any other thoughts about this? I mean, you know, and any other questions, Kathy? Yeah.
Well, I found it helpful in that a couple of the mediums, like the GAC versus the water and the matte medium, that
Yeah.
was helpful. And I've never really understood the difference, and I think I will use the difference between fluid and tinting things and high flow. And I knew about open and acrylic paint and have been veering away from open because I find it that I can put a little bit of it in stuff or mediums, but open is way too greasy for me. That's what I call it. It just is slimy and greasy.
Yeah, they may not be what you need to use. Exactly, exactly. And for other
Yes,
people,
so I've stopped even
Yeah.
using it outdoor for plein air. I find
Yeah.
other ways that I can keep it from drying. And I really like the consistency of the original acrylic
everybody, yeah.
better.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, now that you know that there's something that can extend your paint, like the open medium, or, you know, what I often do is I take when I make a large amount of paint, which I do all the time for my work, and I need white in all of it because I want an opaque flat surface, I use open white, and then I have a paint that stays wet way longer. And I've also, you know, opacified my paints. So that's what I'm saying, when you start to understand how these things work, you can make it work to your best, you know, so that it works best for you, for what you're trying to do. Right. And then little tricks like, you know, that gesso can fill in for white paint, and it's much more matte and much more opaque should you want that. It's a little less expensive too. So, you know, these little tricks of the trade, because you know that you can do that because gesso is exactly the same as acrylic paint, only it's got more matting agent in it. Matting agents are this, you know, the white particles, the calcium, the chalk, really, it's chalk. Yeah.
So how do you keep the hardest part I've had is to keep a quantity of paint overnight or for a couple of days
Right.
that doesn't harden up on me. 'Cause
Mixing it up in a larger container like this and putting a cap on it, plastic cap on it. I've had, you know, this paint that I use up here has been there since the summer.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you know, just cover it. Just, you know, it's the volume of paint plus really keeping it airtight. We'll hold it for a while. You really can get a lot of mileage out of it. When you mix up a little bit on a palette, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I saw. Philip Young did that he has jars of, and I couldn't figure out how that he has a favorite color, so he
Yeah.
keeps it from
Right,
hardening.
it's just a volume, you know. Sure, and then adding open white to your paints if that's what you need to do. You know, it's just like learning all these little things that can help you achieve what you're trying to do. Other sort of general questions, and then we're going to do some of these things because I do want us to get into painting today. The more you use this, the more you feel comfortable with it, the better. But any other general questions?
Just if anyone, I don't know if you know this, I went to the Worcester Art Museum this weekend, and that woman from Brazil that paints, she has a beautiful painting there, and it was just so interesting now that I knew how she did it. And you can't even really tell that it's skins, but then when you're really looking and you can see a little bit of edge, and it was really.
Oh my God, thank you for telling me that. That is great to know. I'll go up there because I've not seen her work in person.
Yeah, it's on the 4th floor.
Okay, great.
Which museum? Sorry.
The Worcester Art Museum.
Oh, Worcester. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Oh, Robin, that is great. So you were really able to see the real deal.
Yeah, it was great meeting.
Oh my God. Carla, did you have a question?
Question about skins. I made another one this week just
Yeah.
to see if I could do a better job, and I did.
Yeah, good.
But I used heavy matte gel or whatever it's called, and I was hoping for a matte paint skin. but when I peeled it off this morning, off the page protector,
Yeah.
side on the page projector was super shiny. So is that just the way it goes?
You know,
I asked the same question. Bill.
It is it has to do with the page protector. That's a very slick surface, but to get it matte, just repaint with matte medium on top of it and it will become matte.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, you know, what's really interesting is you can go back over something that is matte with glossy. And if you don't like it, go back over it with matte and make it matte. And if you don't like it, you can go back over with glossy. It just changes. It's amazing. Yeah. So you have your choice. Yeah.
And then
That's why.
one other question about printmaking. I decided to try doing that, not this week, but the last.
Yeah, the gel plate. Yeah. Or the,
I don't have a gel plate, so I used a palette.
Yeah.
And rolled out on that.
yeah.
And but the papers that I chose are printmaking paper by Hannah Mueller, which is pretty toothy.
Yeah.
And nothing, you know, there's just so many little white spots showing.
Yeah, I know.
Using the roller doesn't work, and then using a squeegee got me a little more paint.
Yeah.
And so my question is, does the printmaking work primarily if you use a gel plate? And those only come, what, 9 by 12? Or
No.
what?
Okay, so it's your paper.
Oh,
I have tried it on watercolor paper. It doesn't look good because there's too much white from it. You know, whatever you're doing, you can't get it in to the little, valleys. So I, use something very smooth, Prilla.
okay.
Yeah. So it's not that. You can really get a great print out of it. You just need to use, the paper that would be preferable.
Okay, no, I don't have any, so I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, like I use BFK, I use drawing paper. Phyllis, did you have something to say about
Well,
that?
it's related to this. Would it help to wet the paper before you, I mean, like in a regular printing? No, it doesn't make any difference.
No,
I
no,
was
no.
using BFK, and I was wondering about I'm sure the video would have it, but I didn't look again. I bought the open acrylic, so I could
Yes.
just,
Yes.
what's the ratio of color to open, to get
I bought
mostly?
the open medium. You bought the open medium. So I like to go 50-50 and start with that, Phyllis. That
Oh,
should be
okay.
fine.
But you
And
said, no, I got the acrylic gel. That's what you told me to get.
acrylic,
The open gel.
Open acrylic gel medium.
Yeah, okay.
And you can get open acrylic fluid medium. But you got
Right.
open acrylic gel, which is what you want, because that's the better one for the printmaking.
Right.
And then you mix your pigment and your gel medium together, 50-50.
50-50.
Yeah,
Okay.
and see, if it is drying a little too fast for you, add a little bit more medium. As you saw, you can really extend the paints.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Well, yeah, there's white, but that's okay. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So
But
try that. Yeah.
so it doesn't make any sense to spray wet it or something.
No, I mean, what you're going to do is you'll probably get the paints themselves will start to creep a little bit. You don't need to, because those
Okay.
paints will definitely hold up. Absolutely will transfer beautifully, as you saw from my video. I mean, it really does work. And something slippery like, you can use an acrylic or rather a plexiglass plate or an aluminum plate, anything that's smooth and flat and the deal with the gel plate is that it's more resilient, so you don't so hard. You really do get a good image.
Perla, you can borrow my gel plate if you want. I have one. But I also just use plexiglass too.
Oh, I love the gel plate. Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay. Any other general questions, and then let's get into.
Are we going to do varnishes? Yes.
Yeah,
soon.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
So, yes, I will take a photograph of this and send it to you all. So you can see
Great.
this is mine. It tends to be a we call them modern pigments, which are the synthetic pigments. They're very transparent. So all of these, if you want to make them opaque, you all need to add a little bit of white to them. All right, so what I thought we might do is let's do a little painting first, and then let's get into some of the videos, because I know you're anxious to get your hands into this stuff, and let's do that. So what I wanted to do was to have you do some sample paintings, with only using soft gel mixed with your paints, and have that be one, because I think this is a very instructive thing to do. These two, just in terms of our class today, these are two paintings, and they don't have to be exactly alike at all, but this one was paints mixed only with the matte medium, and you can see, this just really has a different, this is a heavy gel matte that you have. It really sits up to do a whole painting, or whatever that whatever square or rectangle that you prepared for today to do, and then do one only using your gloss medium. That, and then just have those. You won't be able to see it as well until they've dried, but it's just a dramatic difference, and it really helps to solidify in your head what the difference is between those two things. So, I thought let's spend like, say, 15 minutes, and not a big deal, nothing, no art with a capital A, just play with these two pieces, these two little these mat boards that you brought in today, and just do, colors mixed specifically with your gloss medium, and then colors mixed specifically with your matte. Do not blend them, just keep them separate. And then, and just when they dry, you'll have them. So let's do that right now. Just take 10, 15, nothing fancy. We'll stop at, say, like about 20 of 11, and then move on to some other things that we want to do.
Oh, it's matte medium, and then what's the other one?
They're both the ones that you had in your little kit, that golden set.
Oh,
They're
my
like
kit
golden.
is numbered, so I don't
Yeah.
remember.
So this is the glossy gel medium,
Okay.
soft gel gloss medium. It is soft. It's not going to give you, heights here, but it is going to give you a little bit of texture.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the heavy gel matte medium, and look how it sits up. It's very, very textural. See that? So you're going to see a huge difference. Just make a whole painting just using your gel matte medium with the colors that you have that are in your little container, and then do another painting that's only with the soft gel gloss. Look at that. So super, super different. This will help to solidify your understanding of what these mediums can do to your paints, and also, what you can get out of them if you choose to do one or the other. So it's also representative. All the glossy mediums give you a very, very glossy effect. All the matte mediums will really give you this matte effect. So let's just do that.
Matter what viscosity paint we use along
No,
with the
no, not at all. Not at all. I mean, if you use the, in the heavy gel matte, a little couple drops is all you really need if you're using your high flow. It is, of course, less stiff, and it may affect the matte medium slightly, but not terribly. It still should really be.
These are on gesso boards.
Yes, gesso boards. Yeah, gesso boards. And so this time you can see if you did manage to gesso a board, or even put your matte medium down first. It prevents the rest of your paint from sinking into the fibers of your matte board. Let's see, Liz, you want to interested in some other people from other than the class? It's still some work. I did.
Yeah, no worries. You don't have to get into it now. I was just curious.
I'm not sure if that's the greatest way. I share. I have my students share their work. I didn't think this would really be that kind of a class.
Okay.
But I use, Google Drive, in a shared folder. You can put, use it. Might be better to do it that way.
Oh, okay.
Or a Padlet. I mean, I would have set it up if I thought that, this was
Yeah.
that kind of.
Well, you might just ask people if anybody wants to share. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much. I'm going
All
to
right,
jump
Liz.
off, but I
Okay.
look forward to seeing the recording.
Okay, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Adria,
Yep.
I'm wondering if you know what kind of paint this is. It's metallic green, but I don't know if it's like heavy duty, if it's, more like a fluid.
Oh, well, it's probably fluid because it comes in that kind of a jar. Why don't you play with it?
I'm gonna. It's so pretty.
Is it going to make that much of a difference in that as I told you, I just got here and
Yeah, no worries. No, it's not going to make much difference,
my
Kathy.
board is a little damp. No, my board is a little damp. Can I still paint on it that I gessoed last night?
Little damp, sure. I don't think it's going to hurt much. You might get a little white into your paint, but I don't think it's going to be a big.
Which it's not bad. I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
Okay, where do I put this plastic thing?
And what I'm going to do today, just as you're working, I'll just tell you, I am going to show you some of the short recordings that Golden has on its website that I think are very good instructional ones, especially Phyllis, about the varnishes. So this is something that they really show that very dramatically what you'll need to do. So we'll get into the varnishes definitely in this class.
Adria, I'm just painting on paper. I hope that's okay.
It's really fine. No, it's totally fine. Again, I was saying gesso because we had talked about it. We had never really done it, in preparation
Right.
for the painting in this class. But just so you know, what will happen is, your paper will be absorbing more paint.
Right. No, it's fine.
Yeah, before you know it, the paint itself will start to dry anyway on the surface. So, you're gonna lose a very small amount to the fibers. Not a big deal.
Okay, good.
But then also you can use, that you can just use matte medium, watered down with a little bit of water if you're using the extra heavy. It will also serve to seal the surface that you're using. Yeah. And then if you're using foam core, you don't need to sort of seal it. You might want to use gesso because it gives you a little tooth and the paint stays there a little bit more, but even then it's not that dramatic.
Where's that mat?
Another 5 minutes or so. Again, not, this doesn't have to be anything fabulous. Just a chance for you to try out these different mediums. Okay, let's go ahead and stop. I did mute everybody just so you have a little bit more privacy where you're working. So just feel free to unmute yourselves. Yeah, so I see that in my email to you, we were also going to do a regular gel semi-gloss because that was one of the other ones you had, but these two are great, and you can do another one, after this class, of course. But the semi-gel, the regular gel does have a different viscosity. You might want to play with that too. But the soft gel gloss and the extra heavy gel are great because they're opposite ends of the spectrum. They really give you that feeling of what each viscosity is liable to do with your paints. And for a lot of you, you might really like that heavy gel matte because it does give, I think it gives the paints, acrylic paints, more of a feel of oil paint. I don't know, correct me if you think you disagree, but it's a little bit stiffer than the regular feeling of the heavy body acrylic. So it feels a little bit more like using oils. Agreed? Robin, what do you think? Yeah? A little?
Yeah, I'm used to watering down my,
Ah.
you know, I use so much medium, so
All right, so no, right. Well, yeah.
I do the
You want
opposite.
the old, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so that's fun. That's a good thing to know, and something else to play with. Something we didn't really cover in here was the use of these, mediums for stenciling. And this is a piece that an experimental piece that I use to show people, because of the viscosity of these heavier mediums, they really can give you a nice hard edge. So you just cut a shape out of either Yupo or Duralar. I think plastic is better to use for making stencil shapes, but it's really fun to put a stencil down and drag this heavy medium mixed with paint over that, pull up your stencil, all kinds of cool things you can get. Both of these are stencils. This is the reverse. You really do see the depth that you can create with that use of the mediums. And the heavy body paint itself is a little too soft to give you that really strong ridge. I mean, but you can certainly do it without mediums, but the mediums do give it that
So
body.
what medium are you recommending for that?
Now, this one is the molding paste,
Oh,
so
put molding paste down on top of the stencil?
yeah, and then just dragging it across. So for example, here's a stencil. Well, this is a commercial stencil, but putting this down on a surface and dragging your paint across it, the paint mixed with medium or whatever, and then pulling it up straight. Of course, there's a little bit of a trick to, getting the hang of it so that the paint doesn't move around too much, but it's another really fun way to use these. Like I say, there's a zillion. You just have to figure out what is it that you want to do with your work but it's all possible. That's I use stencils a lot in my work. I find it very fun to do that. So
So the medium you're using is the molding paste with pigment in it.
yes, exactly. But you can also do it with a light molding paste, a fiber paste. Just all of these mediums that we've been talking about that have a little bit of a thickness or a texture are great. You just add a little bit of your color to it, and voila, you've got a colored medium that you can drag across a stencil and pull up and make a really interesting shape. Okay, so the next thing that we wanted to try just really quickly is, you had done a board that had some of the tar gel sort of dripped over it, and the background is white. This is one that's kind of showing off the interference paint. So the interference, we really didn't get into that too much, but it's that paint that doesn't have the pigment in it. I'm just showing you this because we're really talking about the clear tar gel by itself. When you dip a brush into watered down paint, with a color in it, right? What happens is you can do a resist. And I've just got a little bit of this blue paint here. You know what I'm going to do? Focus this down on my table. There we go. So you can see this a little bit better. Okay. If you can't see, make sure you pin me to. Here, I'll do this. I'll pin myself to the board, so to the Zoom, so you can really see. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Okay. I get seasick when people do that. So this is a brush with, some paint that's got a lot of water in it. So it's quite thin, and it's not opaque. So on the areas that are just white, and if I just drag my brush across the top, what happens is you get a really interesting resist. So that's kind of fun to play with. And so when this dries, you'll have the white of the page that's underneath actually needs a little bit more water. So what I really wanted to do is to resist my, there we go. Make sure that your paint has quite a bit of water in it, and then it will resist where the tar gel is, and leave you with, you know, a kind of interesting look that way. But that's just another thing that you can do to play with this. So just take a few minutes now to water down some color, see what happens when you know, brush it over the places where your clear tar gel has dried. And then you can have an interesting look that way. And you can imagine you could build that up. So, you know, once you've got blue on your piece of paper or your board, you can put more clear tar gel after it's dried, put more clear tar gel, save the blue, and then go over it all with a darker color. So it's just another kind of interesting textural effect that you can play with.
Oh, I didn't do it clear. I had pigment in mine.
That's okay, Prilla. I mean, you'll get the idea of that it resists if you just drag some. Yeah, that's all that you really need to know. Yeah. Yeah, this is just a quickie.
Watered down.
Okay, really had a chance to play with that a little bit.
I think, you know, I ended up with some tar gel with pigment and then some without. I finally gave up and shook some tar gel in a little tiny bottle because it's so thick, I couldn't get it to do anything.
Yeah, it does have that tendency to, you know, start to dry. Yeah.
This is what I don't know if you can see this, but
Let me see here. I muted you by mistake, Terry. Okay, let's see it again.
so the little white lines are where I had it really thin with water.
Yes.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, so that's interesting.
Interesting effect. You know, it's just another, you know, kind of you never know when this kind of effect could be interesting to you. And, you know, again, it's thick because it's starting to dry. And yeah, unfortunately that it's not you, it's the material. And, you know, it probably is one of these things that just had, you know, it tends to dry out a little bit more quickly than some of the other mediums. It's probably just, that's what it does, you know? So,
Oh, I got some staining. It seems like when I brush the paint over it, maybe because it's so fluid, it sort of puddles a little bit in the.
yes, exactly. It's just a very interesting, Kathy, an interesting kind of thing that it does. Yeah, it pools in the valleys, and you know, it will sort of tint the, the tar gel a little bit as well. It's
But
just
you
that,
can get it off by taking a brush over it, right?
you
And
could,
pick-
depending on, yeah, what you what you want to do for, what you're trying to get at in your work, for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on then. Again, this wasn't any, just a real big deal to do, just a little kind of short thing to try. We are going to talk about varnishes. And it does sort of segue because, yeah, I know that Phyllis had very curious about it. But the thing about varnishing is that you need to really think about why you might want to varnish and if it's the appropriate thing for you to do. So I think I mentioned this earlier. I think that it's an aesthetic choice because you could be doing a work that has a variety of surfaces, and it might be a work that really plays with glossy versus matte. If you decided to varnish it, you would be deciding to choose a sheen overall, the whole thing. And that would probably not be appropriate for that kind of work, in which case we're kind of left with hoping that the conservators of the future understand how to revive something that either had water damage on it or smoke damage or whatever, and clean the painting even though it didn't have a varnish on it. So the other thing that I was not aware of about varnishing, maybe maybe you don't know, but a varnish isn't a varnish if it's not meant to be taken off. In other words, if it's not reversible, then it isn't acting as a varnish.
Hmm.
The purpose of a varnish is that you can take it off if your painting gets somehow, soiled or soot on it, or who knows what, a glass of red wine spilled, whatever happens to it, I don't know. Phyllis, can you unmute yourself? I can't hear you. Yeah, unmute. Yeah.
So varnish has to be reversible, removable.
Well, otherwise it's
Yes.
not. Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah,
use
okay.
varnish as an overall coat of, for your work as some sort of a protective. But if you haven't done it with the preparation you need to do, in other words, the isolation coat, which is the key in acrylic land, then it's not really acting as a varnish. So it really makes you think that, when you are an artist and serious about, a museum collecting your work, or it's going to a museum collection, that you have thought about how you have or have not used varnish on it. And you might want to put a little note to that effect on the back of it, because, it's kind of hard to know unless I am sure that conservatives these days do all kinds of close up microscopic looks at whether you use varnish or not. So I guess that's not really an issue, but it's not a bad thing to think about. So, suppose you're using, and this is only applicable, you really only want to use acrylic varnish, on acrylic paintings. So there are other kinds of varnish. So one in particular is called mineral spirit acrylic varnish. And that is one you can use on watercolor artwork or oil paint work. And you can also use MSA on acrylic paintings, but the MSA is very odoriferous, shall we say.
Smelly.
You don't want to be breathing it. You don't want to be breathing any of the stuff anyway, but especially the MSA, because it has solvents in it. You can smell it as soon as you get, open the container or spray it. Yeah, it's heavy duty. It's pretty serious stuff. So should you want to varnish your oil paintings, and you might, then that would be the one you would want to use, the MSA, not the acrylic. But if you're just going to work on an acrylic painting, and you've decided, okay, I really do want this, for all intents and purposes, it's fine if I, make the whole thing one sheen at the end, and I really do want it so that somebody could clean it later on. then what you would do is, and I'm going to show you videos that really explain this, visually much better than I can, but just to set you up with it, you have your acrylic painting, and now you're going to put an isolation coat, which is any kind of acrylic medium on top of it. So this is hard to sort of visualize. I know, because you've already used medium in this painting, right? But now you want to put something on top of it that's not necessarily part of the painting, but coats the painting to prepare it to accept the varnish. Because when you take the varnish off, you only want to take the varnish. You don't want to also take the painting. So you want to have something in between the varnish and the painting itself. Make sense?
How do you take the varnish off? Or how do
Uh,
conservators take the varnish off?
You want to go to a conservator. You don't want to, yeah, because you need ammonia soaked rags.
Oh,
That's something you want to do. I would never trust myself to do this. Anyway, I don't know how people do this.
Can I just say that?
Yeah.
Golden actually makes something now called isolation coat, which is,
Right. That's right.
it's a gel. I used to make it myself.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
well, or
what's.
you just use any medium. Any medium
Yeah.
can be an isolation coat. Clear tar
Oh,
gel.
okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, anything is a medium. Anything that is different from your painting that's going to keep a layer between your painting and the varnish.
Okay, because when I used to make it, I mean, Golden had a recipe for making an isolation coat. I don't
I've been told
remember
that you
what,
can use, I've been told
anything.
any medium.
Okay,
But they
okay.
do now have an isolation coat medium. So let's look at that. That's what I was going to show you. They do. And I didn't even know that they made one, but yes, they do.
I can find it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I was gonna, yeah, all right. Where is it?
Okay, so let me share the screen, Phyllis, whenever you're ready. So yeah, they do make something called isolation coat, but it's just a medium. So but you can go and yes, that's right. Thank you. Okay, so let me show you this video that I think really is yes, this is a very good video.
And what it says is it's a clear glossy barrier.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And, they're trying to make this stuff clearer for people. That's, and yeah. So, instead of sort of saying you can use anything, it's very clear. Okay, so let me show you this video that talks about, how to do an isolation coat. So.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Townsend with Golden Artist Colors. Today, we're going to be talking about the Golden Isolation Coat and how to apply it. Isolation coat is a preparation for acrylic paintings that are going to be varnished. The product name describes its role in isolating acrylic colors from the removable varnish. An isolation coat is a permanent clear acrylic medium covering a painting. This locks down any underbound pigment that may be on the surface of your painting and provides a protective barrier for varnish application and removal. Isolation coats are for acrylic paintings only and not to be used on oil paintings, watercolors, or any water-soluble media. An isolation coat makes application and removal of varnish easier by reducing the differences in surface absorbency and texture in acrylic colors, mediums, and grounds. For each square foot of your painting, you'll need about 1 ounce. You may need more if your painting is really absorbent or textural, but if it's very smooth and not absorbent, maybe you'll need less. It's vital to make sure you have enough isolation coat available before you begin. A wide flat brush with short, soft bristles is ideal for this application. Using a high-quality brush limits the number of brush strokes and bubbles left behind.
I would underscore that. Using the right brush to do this stuff is very important, as I have learned the hard way. So yeah, okay.
Load the brush about halfway up the bristles on both sides. About every 5 or 6 inches, apply some product onto the surface. So what we're doing is we're making a series of 7s that allows me to offload both sides. Now, spread the product out, come close to the edge, but not all the way to the edge so it doesn't run all over the place. Then make sure to cover the edges of your painting by working from the outside in. Make sure the entire painting is covered with an even wet coat. Use the brush to pull off excess material. Most importantly, don't overwork the isolation coat. Stop while the entire surface is still wet. Working the isolation coat and it starts to dry is going to really increase the chance of bubbles and brush strokes being left behind in the painting.
underscoring that one too. Do
But
not,
which is,
do not worry your surfaces. In other words, once you put down these surfaces, you don't want to go back and move them and fix them around, move them, because the stuff starts drying very quickly. And before you know it, you've got, you know, marks and strokes where you did not think you wanted them. So, and this applies across the board to all these applications of these mediums and gels that we've been seeing.
and you use it undiluted, just straight.
Yes.
That's what he had.
Now we've waited a couple of hours and take a look at the surface. Look for any unevenness, any dull spots, any areas that would mean that we'd want to do a second coat. There's a lot of factors that influence how long you need to wait before varnishing the paint. So remember, even if the acrylic painting is completely dry, when you apply the isolation coat, you're reintroducing moisture back into the painting. There's no replacement for time in the process of applying varnish coats or isolation coats. You need to allow these layers to dry before going to the next application. We also recommend that you test and practice with these materials and techniques before using them on the painting you care about. So in the long run, the isolation coat protects the painting so that the varnish can do its job until it needs to be removed. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please give us a call.
So anyway, that's available to everybody. You know, that's the library of those videos are super, super interesting and very, you know, really get down to exactly what you want to know. Then I wanted to also show you this on how to apply the varnish, and then we'll talk about questions. So let's look at how to actually.
We can get these videos from
Yeah.
the website?
Well, yes,
Okay.
and this one actually, they've been updating a lot of their videos, so they don't have as many on their website right now, but you can still get them on YouTube. This one's a little older, so I found I had to go to YouTube to find it, but yeah.
Adria, why are you putting a varnish on in the first place?
Okay, so to protect the work from dirt, soot, from, you know, if it's been in a fire, you know, and it's gotten a sort of a layer of soot on it. If it's got, you know, if someone spilled, you know, took a crayon and drew over it, you know, something happened. If something ever happened to your painting, the conservator would be able to take off a varnish and reintroduce a varnish on top of it to protect it. You're really just protecting your painting. Because the surface of acrylics, actually, without anything on it, it's a little soft and porous. And, you know, I mean, again, I said, you know, if you're doing an experimental kind of a painting with a lot of texture and a lot of variety of sheens, you know, some places that are matte, some places that are gritty, some places that are really slippery, and you want to have that be part of the experience of the painting, then you can't varnish it, because you wouldn't want to make the whole surface one sheen, because, you know, you'll have a choice. You can have a glossy sheen, you can have a matte sheen, or you can have a sort of satin sheen, but you can't have both. Whatever you choose has to be one or the other. So it's a way of protecting your work, Judy. You know, if you're an acrylic watercolor artist, you can frame it under glass, and that protects the work. But if you choose to have a watercolor painting without a frame on it, you know, you may want to seal it. I think it really changes the look of the watercolor. I wouldn't recommend it particularly, but you might really want to do that. In which case you could put, you know, you'd have to, boy, that might be a tricky one. You know, I would really want to call Golden and ask them how they would suggest you present to, you know, to protect a watercolor painting, because presumably you wanted to take the varnish off if it got dirty and put a new one on. And if you don't have an isolation coat on your watercolor, I don't know how that's going to work. But anyway, you would be wanting to use the MSA varnish. So, you know, I mean, we're splitting hairs here. Not everybody here is going to be ever interested in varnishing their work. Some people might be, some people might sometimes be. But it's important to understand what a varnish does. It protects your work, basically, and allows, you know, the dirt to come off, you know, by removing the varnish, not touching the painting. Okay, so let's watch this now. Yeah.
This video will focus on the proper way to spray Golden's archival MSA varnish. Make sure your spray area has good lighting and ventilation. It is
So this is the mineral spirits.
It is, but you know, it's
mainly immediate.
still a good video.
Reduce any blowing air whenever possible, as this distorts the spray pattern and can impact the evenness of the spray varnish. A cardboard wedge helps to angle smaller artwork to make it easier to see the varnish being applied. As with the background surfaces, cover the wedge with clean paper to help further reduce dust in the spray area. It is strongly suggested to use a NIOSH-approved respirator equipped with filters suitable for mist and organic vapors, especially when spraying indoors. This test paper will be attached to the spraying wedge using low-tack painter's tape. For heavier objects, such as a stretched canvas, use plastic items like these jar lids to raise the canvas from the table surface. Be sure to properly shake your varnish can for 2 full minutes prior to use. To remove the cap, use a paint can opener in the opening of the cap, or just muscle it off by squeezing on the sides of the cap while twisting. Golden Archival varnish comes equipped with a fan spray tip. This tip can be adjusted to change the elliptical spray pattern. From the factory, the preset position is ideal for spraying side to side. Turning the inner spray tip 90 degrees is ideal for spraying up and down. A diagonal spraying is also possible. A distance of 10 to 12 inches reduces lap lines and runs. To reduce spattering and uneven buildup, always start and end the spray pattern off of the artwork. Move the can at a constant rate of 1 foot per second. Starting by spraying directly on the piece or even hesitating while spraying is likely to create runs and drips in the varnish layer. In most instances, the easiest method to coat the surface is side to side and overlapping the sections as you move downward. When spraying is complete, turn the can upside down away from the artwork and spray for a few seconds. This clears the valve stem to reduce spattering the next time that you spray. Immediately wipe the spray tip to remove any varnish. Allow each layer to dry for at least 15 to 20 minutes. There are no issues with waiting longer. While one could turn the inner spray tip, smaller works can simply be turned on their side for the next coat of varnish. Shake the can for an additional 30 seconds before spraying between coats. If you wait longer than 20 minutes, shake for the standard 2 minutes. Repeat the spray patterning for each coat. On larger works, be sure to shake the can for a little while for every 30 seconds of spray. If you are working in an area that isn't so clean, or where there may be a lot of dust or insects in the air, consider creating a drying cover for the work. This example is made from a cardboard box with openings on all sides. A cheesecloth type material was then taped inside. Be sure to measure the cover to easily fit over the work.
Okay. That was a lot of information here. And really gets down to the nitty gritty about how to do this varnishing. Yeah, varnishing is not to be taken lightly. How many of you have varnished your work?
Well, I've varnished a boat many times, and it's a challenge.
Yeah, you have to.
Is there
Yeah.
something on, I'm sorry, is there something on the non-spray, the brush on, the acrylic varnish?
It probably is. And I would vote for spraying the varnish myself because I think it's a lot easier to do it.
But I'm not using the one with solvent in it.
Oh no, you can get either of those in both the fluid or the spray can.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Robin, have you used the spray to do it, or have you used it out of the?
So I had a question. So on the collages that I'm doing now,
Yeah.
let me see. Do I have it right here? No, that's not today. I have to find what I used, and I'm wondering if that's the best thing. Actually, keep talking. I'm going to find it and see if.
Yeah. So the varnishes, well, all the MSA and the acrylic polymer varnish come in, cans which you paint the stuff on or spraying them. And again, I think that spraying is probably better to do because I think that it's very hard to get a really even, fluid brush stroke across it. Yeah, go ahead, Robin. Yeah.
So, yeah, so this is the mineral spirit acrylic, and it's really smelly.
It
And
is.
I've done it outside. So I'm wondering though, I have collages that have lace on them, and it's mostly water-based things. Should I use this, or should I use the other stuff? Like what one would be better?
Oh, the acrylic polymer? You mean the acrylic varnish? I mean, I think you could use either. You know, I don't think it's, yeah, you might not, you will get less fumy with the acrylic polymer varnish, Robin, than the MSA. But
Okay.
since, you know, you're not working with anything that's water soluble, then you can use the acrylic. But, you know, MSA is good of course, for oil, because, you know, of a possibility, you know, you don't want to put acrylic on top of oil. So you would want to use the MSA. Watercolor or anything that's water soluble, you would want to use the MSA as well. But if it doesn't have any of that, it's just, you know, acrylic or other materials, you could use the acrylic varnish.
Okay, so you would not suggest, you would prefer doing a spray as opposed to just putting like a fluid matte medium over the whole surface?
So
Like,
that's
what's the difference?
exactly this is exactly the question about it. You're right, because you can put a matte medium or a gloss medium on the whole thing and consider it complete. And it does, you know, kind of give that final sheen to everything. And it does protect the surface, but it's not a varnish in that if something got on that piece, that you could take it off. Right?
You
But it
can't-
still
you can't-
protects it. You can't take it off though. The ice, you know, you can't,
Mhm.
it's not meant to be taken off. There's something in the varnish that allows it to be taken off, you know, easily like that. That's why, you know, the ammonia rags. But, you know, for that kind of a question, I would call Golden and I would ask them, you know, what they would really recommend if what you're planning to do is have a coat on your piece that you intend to have to be able to be taken off, Robin. You know, in other words, if you're putting it on for the purpose of, you know, having it be cleaned at some future point.
I mean,
Ask
what if,
someone.
what if you just, I don't see, I mean, I guess somebody might, you know, if somebody spills something or whatever, I guess that's a good thing. But if you just want to protect it, then does it really matter?
I don't think so. But here's the thing. Again, I'm saying, oh, Phyllis, did you want to answer that?
I just wanted, no, I just wanted to add something.
Right. Well, let me just finish with this.
Yeah,
one.
so finish it.
As I said, the surface of, you know, the acrylic paints and the mediums, when they're dry, they're still a little porous and a little soft, you know, and so they can attract dirt. By going over everything with a medium, you know, you are sealing it more. You know, that would be but again, I would call them. I mean, if you're really, you know, if you're selling these and you're really putting them out in the world, I would just call and just say, here's what I'm doing. What do you suggest? Because these guys at Golden, they know all of this stuff. I mean, they're really into the background of it, the science of it. And I can only tell you what I've learned, but I am not somebody who's done a lot of varnishing. But I've had this exact same questions as you. You know, I don't ever varnish because I just don't see the reason for it personally. But I have noticed over the years that the surfaces can get a little grungy because they're soft. So, but I still don't know if I would necessarily want to. It's just, yeah, but I would call. Definitely call. Yeah, Phyllis, what would you say?
Well, I varnish things because I'm making sort of sculptural pieces with paint and not with paint, but
Yeah,
that I don't want to frame. So I use many coats of varnish because to protect. But one thing I've learned, and I mean, I've spoken to the technical people at Golden who are great, is that you have to start with a glossy or you lose the color. If you want a matte surface, you still have to start with glossy.
Good to know. Good to know.
Because matte changes the color a little bit and glossy will keep it and then you can add.
Mhm, mhm.
just so you know. I mean, the isolation coat for that reason is glossy.
Yeah.
Can
I
you-
have a
So,
question
Tina-
or comment. I don't know if you can see this. This is what I've been using for years for ink
Protective.
prints, which are water-based. It's called Desert Varnish. It comes from that company, the Moab, that does, well, they do papers and
Paper. Mhm.
and I mean, I'm just reading all the nasty ingredients on it. And I mean, it's called a varnish, but I can't imagine this being removable.
Well, it should be, if it's called a varnish, that is what it should be able to do. And it's probably made with, MSA stuff, exactly the same, well, probably similar to what like Golden's MSA is. But yeah, no.
But you
it's
put them on
totally-
photographs?
It's, pardon?
You put it on photographs?
Yeah, you put it on inkjet.
Yeah, no, I just wondered what you do, yeah.
Yeah. And
Right, you
I
can do
mean,
that with
because
the MSA too, yeah, same thing.
I don't really like all my photographs to be under glass. I would love to be able to not have glass on a lot of my photographs.
Right.
And so I use this when I'm presenting them, when they're mounted on panels or something. And it's, I mean, the spraying routine is exactly what these people say. And I think it works. I can't even see that it's on there.
Right, it's very similar, but I still question whether that is reversible if it's on something like
Oh, well, me too.
inkjet. Yeah,
I just see it as
yeah, I know. You're just thinking about it as a protective surface. But yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, well, you see, there's still some questions that we all have about how to use this stuff and when you might want to use it. But if you have any questions like that, I would call up the people who make it.
So Phyllis, you must spray and varnish each part before you assemble it, right? I've seen your work. You don't.
Yeah,
do it.
no, I don't, and but I should.
Okay.
I put it, no, because I paint on it after it's together too, so.
Yeah, and
Okay.
see, you too, Phyllis, are not really using varnish as something that you anticipate someone taking off to clean it. You are using it as Terry is, which is as a protective.
As a protect, I'm
Yeah.
using it to protect the pieces once they're,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I think a lot of people, frankly, use that too. I think that,
Yeah.
and that's valid. It's just, if you're trying to do it on a painting in the more traditional sense, to understand why you would want to do it and how you can take it off, because blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys, but I was not taught about varnishing. And when I was in art school, I never learned that part. I had to pick it up later.
So Adria, with your sculptural pieces, which are not framed, obviously,
No,
you don't feel like you need varnish.
well, I
And
do.
how long do they last?
I am putting varnish on them now, but I'm not planning that it's reversible. I'm doing just as you are, which is making them.
You're using, oh,
It's a protective coat that I'm putting on them. I am not anticipating anybody taking the varnish off. No.
so
And
wait, what do you coat them with? You just coat them with medium, you said?
Varnish, no, I'm using, I'm actually, because I was frustrated with, boy, it's been a long story with that. It's the first time that I am varnishing my work, and I wanted to varnish it because I'm, oh my God, it's, I'm still at the kind of early stages of this,
Okay.
about this stuff, but I wanted to protect the surface from, getting nicks or scratches as I move them. So I decided to use a coat of varnish because I know that it's harder than acrylic medium. I wanted something with a little bit more rigidity. But I bought what I thought was going to be the right sheen. I bought a satin. It ended up being way too matte for me. I didn't like the sheen. So
Satin's
I
weird,
mixed
yeah.
it. I mixed it with gloss medium, and I'm happy with it. So I've been putting that over all the pieces.
And you brush it or spray it?
I'm
You
brushing
do
it.
brush,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to spray it in my studio. I'm just like, they're too big. There's too many of them. I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm brushing it on.
okay, yeah, no, I brush it on too, but I
Yeah.
didn't even know I could spray it, so.
Yeah, so you can spray it. But you know that you're not going to get as heavy a coat on it if you spray it.
I didn't know that the acrylic came in spray,
Yeah.
but I'll check it out.
I mean,
Okay,
we're
thank
all
you.
learning, I think everybody has their own, issues and problems with what you're trying to do.
Mix-
I'm just afraid to call Golden, ask them a question. They're gonna say, what? But
So
Yeah.
you're using the acrylic varnish and you're
Yeah.
mixing it with the matte?
I'm mixing my satin acrylic varnish with a clear gloss leveling gel. Because that's what I
Oh.
get around.
That's a great idea.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's,
'Cause
I
yeah,
know
this
that I'm not
satin
going
is
to try
weird.
to take it off. I know that, no, I know that it's not going to be taken off. I know that I'm not intending it to be taken off. It's fine. What I'm just looking for is a way to protect it. I would even use polyurethane on it, frankly.
Can you use these varnishes sort of like as a, if you're doing drawing with smeary things, can you put something on top of that and then paint on top of that?
Yeah, you can.
Sure.
So would you to get a spray can of what, the varnish or the isolation coat?
I would get a spray kit. Well, if you wouldn't want to use isolation coat because that's got water in it, you don't want to disturb the surface. So I would spray your polymer acrylic medium over it, and it will do more than just fix it. It will seal it underneath this coat of plastic. And then, yeah, you can paint on it. Absolutely. I've worked with some artists who wanted to have an area of charcoal on their canvas, but then wanted to also add paint to it. If you spray it, you would seal it and protect it.
Yeah, I did that with an earlier body of work, but what is it that you spray on?
I would use an acrylic varnish.
Okay.
Well, no. If it's got something no. It depends. So with charcoal, I would just use the acrylic. You don't need to get MSA because you're not using anything that's got liquid in it. But if you were trying to do that on something that was water-based, you would want to use the MSA varnish because that's the one that has mineral spirits in it, and it's the one that's okay to use on oil. It won't, or even watercolor. So it won't resolubilize your paint.
Oh.
Oh, I see.
Alex, you look like you have a question there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the acrylic varnish and a workable fixative?
And what?
Yeah, well, the fixative is fixative. It's not
Fixative,
varnish,
that's
right?
On charcoal, like that's what I
Right.
use for it to seal my charcoal before I paint.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Great. Well, then you don't need to varnish it. I mean, that's great. I guess what I would say, that's a great thing to try first. Yeah. I mean, if that works, then that's fine. But I was wondering if that would really seal your charcoal. Because I think a fixative is being something that, still makes it relative, you could still move into it. But yeah, no, it's fine. Whatever you need to do to coat it and keep it there. If it's working, great. Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
This goes back to actually to the clear tar gel.
Yeah.
So what would be the difference between if you use clear tar gel or if you just use like glue, like a clear glue, and use that instead? Is that the same thing pretty much?
What would you try to do with
So I
it?
just, say you just want to make a raised surface and you you just want to make a shape on a raised surface on a collage.
Mhm.
And I notice when my glue dries, it looks like the clear tar gel. So I'm like, what's the difference? Not much.
I think if you're trying to keep, acrylic on acrylic painting, and have it all adhere very well, you would want to use, tar gel or something like it. Because glue, if it's Elmer's glue, doesn't have acrylic in it, and it's brittle. So you might run the risk of it
Cracking
or falling off at some future point. But then
Okay.
again, you could probably seal the glue with some acrylic over the whole thing. you
So
know?
little tricks and whatever you want to experiment with.
Right, see, because you know that, oh, all right, you know, if I'm adding, like, because you can embed, actually, you know what? Let me show you one more video that's really interesting because it actually talks about, you know, all the ways in which you can kind of mix and match these products. And also, you know, you can embed things into the acrylic to kind of, you can embed a leaf in there and you know, cover both sides with acrylic. It sort of encases it and preserves it, you know?
Okay.
But this is a great little video. Let me show you this. Just because it's like, wow, these crazy things that you can, you know, mix and match. Here. Let's see, where is it? My videos, yeah. I wanted to show you.
So is that on the website?
This is
Oh,
on the
sorry.
Golden website. This is a good one.
No, all of that. Okay, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Great.
Let's see, was this one I wanted? Yeah, this is a good one too, and covers a lot of different things. There's another one that I was thinking of, but I'll show it to after this.
Those mediums. Oh,
I just want to make sure that I've maximized this for sound. Okay.
Acrylic mediums are essentially acrylic paint minus the pigment and come in a range of sheens. Compared to a gloss gel or medium, matte and semi-gloss mediums will provide more of a translucent effect depending on how thickly they are applied. Coating materials that are prone to deterioration with acrylic medium will not protect them from fading, yellowing, or decay. Be mindful of the materials you incorporate in your artwork and have appropriate expectations for how they may or may not last. When choosing an acrylic medium from Golden, the main difference is consistency or viscosity. From the very thin mediums to very stiff extra heavy gel gloss, you can control the texture and depth of your artwork by selecting a medium that fits your needs. Thinner products work well for low profile, light materials, and thicker products are more appropriate for thicker or heavier collage elements. Here, we've coated the panel with fluid matte medium and wet the back of the paper with water, which helps minimize warping and wrinkles. A scraper and piece of plastic sheathing are used to ensure complete contact between surfaces and help eliminate any gaps or pockets of air. You may also use medium on both the surface and the back of the paper if you are applying to a more textured surface. Some materials may slightly resist the medium, otherwise known as holdout. As we coat this fabric with gloss medium, it's important to make sure it saturates and is fully incorporated with the weave. Once ready, also put a coat of medium on the substrate and lay the material in place. Use a scraper to remove air pockets and excess medium as before. Textured materials can cause adhesion issues because they offer less physical contact with the surfaces to which they are being applied. By using a thick or high viscosity gel, like heavy gel gloss, you are able to overcome these issues by filling gaps between surfaces. While acrylic medium will not stick to every object, you can incorporate small objects into your work by encapsulating them using a high viscosity gel, like high solid gel or extra heavy gel. The more materials used, and as the work becomes larger and heavier, more stress is applied to the surface or support. Using rigid supports and pre-stretched canvases, you can reduce warping and the potential for materials to separate as the acrylic mediums dry and shrink. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and please contact us with any questions you have by sending an email.
Okay, so anyway, that is I think helpful, you know, thinking about, you know, the viscosity as ways to hold, you know, even actual items, you know, as long as they're not too heavy, you can really hold it onto a surface pretty well. And then one more that I wanted to show that I thought was, any questions about that one though? No, this one that I'm going to show you next kind of pulls all of the stuff together, and I hope it's not on YouTube, but we'll see if it is. Just let me check here. Let's see. Yeah, so you can go here and just learn a whole lot of stuff that you might have questions about. Let me see. Oh, here's how to, I'm not going to show this to you. It says MSA varnish removal because don't do this. Don't do it. You can watch it on your own time. Why would you want to do that? Oh my God. Here it is. No. Sorry. This is, yeah. Patty Brady was my teacher for Golden, and she ran the Working Artist program for like 20 years. She's recently retired, but she's, sort of the queen of all these mix and match.
Hello, my name is Patty Brady. I'm the director of the Working Artist Program for Golden Artist Colors. And welcome back to the Paint Bar. Today we're going to play with layering gels. We're going to play with different viscosities, different transparencies, different opacities, and we're going to create some really interesting textures to experiment with. We're going to start with the first layer, which is going to be molding paste. This gel is filled with marble dust, so it's going to dry white. It's also very heavy. It spreads really beautifully, really smoothly, but it will hold peaks. I'm going to tint it today with yellow ochre, which is one of our fluids, and the fluids are this wonderful low viscosity that are great for mixing into gels. Now we're going to apply our tinted molding paste to our gessoed substrate. Once this layer is dry, we're going to add some more embellishment and texture by using a stencil. Secure the stencil, and using the same mixture of molding paste and fluid yellow ochre, spread it rather thickly over the stencil, and while it's still wet, remove the stencil carefully. Now that the stencils are dry, we're going to add another.
Yeah, she waited a couple days between these different colors, everybody. So this is not something you can do in one sitting. Oh no.
Layer of opaque crackle paste. When spreading this crackle paste out, scrape it low enough in some areas to reveal the underlying color. Thick applications of the crackle paste will dry with large cracks. Thin applications will dry with a more subtle, small crack. Now that the crackle paste is dry, I'm going to mix two fluids together with a lot of water, and I'm going to stain this surface. I'm going to first dampen the entire surface of the crackle paste and then apply the stain. And as you can see, the colors will begin to separate because the cracks have little concave spaces in them. For our next layer, we're going to use glass bead gel, which is a transparent gel, and that's going to allow us to see all of these layers that we have previously worked with. When you're applying the glass bead gel, try and apply it very thinly so that when it's dry, those little glass beads will actually capture and bounce light around on the surface. For our final layer, we're going to play with the different.
By the way, I just want to say, you notice how all these layers are white. They're all white, and you're basically covering everything because that's, these gels and mediums, when they dry, the white changes to clear because it's the water that's evaporating. That's what happens. But every time you do this, you're going to just cover things, and you're going to remember it's all white when it's wet.
Viscosities of two of our paints. One is the fluid, which is like a heavy cream, and the other is the airbrush color.
The airbrush is now what we call high flow. So this is a couple years old.
Which is an ink-like water viscosity. We'll take both of those viscosities of paints and pour them into a paper cup. Without mixing them, we'll slowly pour them down over this irregular surface that we've created and allow the paint to find its own level and spread and mix on top of the surface. Now that the pores have dried, you can see how all those layers underneath have given this paint a great surface to move around on. And we still see all the layers. We see the stencil, we see the crackle paste, we see the base color, and you can see how the colors have bled on top and moved around the glass bead gel and created this really rich, magnificent surface. Well, we've covered a lot of different gels and pastes and ways of using paint today, and I hope we encourage you to go out.
Okay, so, but that's like, put it all together. Again, you of course will go with what you're trying to do in your own work, but I think what it does is it illuminates the ways in which, there's something that you want to do, there's probably a way of doing it.
I used it, and I watched that video way back, and I did a painting of a tidal river going into a salt marsh. Worked really well for the mud flats, and I thought it would be pumice gel that I would have to use, but it's the glass bead gel that really created the effect more than I use some pumice gel, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
last
again, it's right. You know, you kind of
part,
don't
yeah.
know what's going to work, and you know, just to know how, you know, that all this stuff is out there to try.
It actually won the Emerging Artist Award, and then I have never used these
There you go. What can I say? Yeah.
at a gallery in Concord.
Yeah. So what other quandaries do we have about this stuff? You know, I think just getting out there and making work, you know, and seeing where it takes you, and then seeing, you know, what do you want to do that you're not able to do with what you have, you know, is always the big kicker. And, you know, I think the thing about all the different paints and all the viscosities and all, you know, again, it can be overwhelming and you don't want it to stop you in your tracks, but there could be a time, like, for example, what I just did, like I was saying to you, you know, the varnish wasn't the right sheen, but I knew that I could add something else to it. You know, it's probably changed the varnish. It's no longer a varnish. I know I'm not using it as a varnish, but I was using what I know about these products that you can mix and match them, to not be afraid to try and do that, because nothing terrible will really happen. Let's see. Alex, did you ask? You've been very quiet over there. Anything particular that your students want to know about? No. Okay, fine. Let's see. Would it be helpful to talk more about, yeah, Terry?
I did, you know, prepared a little panel with the molding paste, and I thought, okay, molding, that means like sculpture, or, and
Yeah,
I don't know, like, do you intentionally start by creating you know, a rough, I don't know if you can see this, a rough texture?
yeah.
Why or why not? I mean, why would you want to use molding paste flat? I mean, I know it also will make your paint, your pigment more lighter. I mean, if you mix it with a
Yeah.
pigment, it lightens it. But
That's right.
you had us preparing a board, and I'm wondering, what would you do?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Did you all make? Did I miss one? Did you make one? Did everybody make a molding paste board?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
For this class. In previous class.
one of
No,
the,
both of them. I have two of them.
Okay,
'Cause
great. Let's do something with them then. So why would you want to do it? So it gives you a textural support. There's a lot of things you can do with the molding paste. Yeah, and I actually have one ready to go too. Yeah, here's mine. Yeah, so it is, it's a lovely smooth surface. So first of all, you can do calligraphy with this. You can do this you can, you know, make prints with this, because it really holds up, and, you know, you can put it right through a press and it will do that. So that's one thing.
great.
You know, you can build surfaces on your canvas or on your substrate that, you know, and this is what I use to do this. So, you know, to mix your colors and to make something that's really going to sit up when you make a stencil. And it's great for stencil making. There's all kinds of sort of, here, let me just turn this. There's something that you can do here called intarsia. Do you all know what that is from printmaking? So let me show you that. It's kind of a fun thing to do. What I would do is to mix up. Let me just get here. I get a heavy body. You could either mix this with your molding paste, or you could just use the paint. I mean, I would mix it because I think you would get more out of it, you know, and you know, expand your paint instead of using the expensive paint all by itself. But let me just put this out onto the surface, and again, I use this for all kinds of things, but intarsia is when you squeegee in or somehow, put paint into, these raised places, like intarsia. You might have a scooping, an area scooped out that's very, very thin, and you're forcing paint into it, and then you're going to clean off the top with a rag so that the paint stays in the areas that were like little valleys, but you're getting rid of it on the top. So let me just scrape this off here and grab a rag really quickly. You want to try to scrape it so that you're not scraping off the paint from the little valley, but you're leaving it in there. But anyway, you should be a little bit more delicate about that. But at any rate, that's probably a little bit too hard to use, with this. I would say take a little piece of cardboard and force it in there. Let's see if this works a little bit better. So yeah, what you try to do is you try to keep it in these areas and then pull away the stuff that you don't want. So that's one thing that you can do with it. Why would you want to do that? I mean, it's just another experimental textural, effect. That's kind of fun to know. So I'm not sure that I showed that all that well, but yeah, you would want to get in there and clean off the other parts of this really nicely, which I'm not doing terribly well here. So that's one thing. Yeah, I just think it's another effect, Terry, that you can, you can play with. And the surface of this is lovely to paint on. It's very, it's pretty non-porous. So, especially when you use open on it, you can really do sort of a subtractive technique with it. Why don't we do that now? Why don't everybody take their molding paste surface and take your open paint, I guess it's the blue that you may have, squeeze a little bit on it, and then see if you see what happens when you pull away, kind of do a subtractive technique with it.
You also had us make a coarse molding plate cardboard and a coarse pumice gel board.
Yes. So yeah, let's do some painting on all of those then. That's a great way to end. I had forgotten that I had asked you to do that. But yeah, why don't we just take a little time now to then revisit, because we've done a little bit of this before, I know, in earlier classes, but to revisit these surfaces and see what the different paints do now that you know a little bit about them, to play with that for a little while.
I don't really understand what you're asking us to do.
Paint. Use the paints. Paint, Kathy. Just paint on those surfaces. Bring out those surfaces that I had asked you to prepare and do some painting on them. Using the paints you have.
I ran out of pumice gel. The first board I made completely took all my pumice gel.
Okay. Well,
and I didn't go to buy any. So
yeah.
Maybe I'll put a little bit of coarse. No, it won't dry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'll do the molding paste. At least I have that.
Yeah, I think the molding paste, it's really fun to do. As I said, the open acrylic, because you can move it like this paint that I used here is the heavy body. It's not open, and it's really hard to remove it once it gets on the surface of the molding paste. But if you use the open won't stay in the surfaces for intarsia, but it will, you can use it to kind of pull away on that surface and do subtractive kinds of effects. In other words, you're subtracting your paint. You're not placing more paint on. You're putting some paint on, giving a sort of overall surface, and then you're pulling away some paint from the surface to create textures, to create light and dark.
Okay.
Should we be using the medium with the open acrylic or just straight?
Just straight. Yeah, because if you add medium to it, you're going to kill the open quality. You're going to dilute that open quality and make it so that it's harder to pull away.
Yep.
Because even water, will increase the drying, and you don't, if you're using open, you want it to stay wet longer, but if you add water to it, you stop that.
And so then we're using paper towel or sponges to pull it away.
Yeah, paper towels, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Andrew, you just said that adding water with the open, that will kind of counteract with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, I know it sounds contradictory. I mean, you can.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, okay, you can spread it out, but if you wanted that paint to last and be able to go back into it, you don't want to add water to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we don't add water to it, or we?
No, do not add water to the open acrylic. No. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, don't, because when you add water, Perla, you're cutting that drying time. You're actually speeding up the drying time. You don't want to do that.
All right.
And what do you want us to do with the pumice gel panel? Just paint it? Yeah.
We only have just a little bit of time left in the class, but I thought, making you paint on these, remind you, what they do. And also now you know so much more about the paints. I hope that you feel a little bit more comfortable about knowing what they'll do. So if, and on those, you can feel free, add water to whatever. The pumice gel, remember, is actually meant to be sprayed with water first. If you want certain technique, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want that sort of soft look of the paint, you can spray it with water, and that allows the paint to kind of spread all over the surface and sink into it. But you can also just use it dry.
I don't quite see what, on the coarse modeling paste, putting the paint down and rubbing it off, I mean, what is that doing? It's just changing. It's,
You have coarse molding paste. You have coarse molding
I also
paste.
have light molding paste, and I have coarse pumice gel. I just started on the coarse modeling paste.
I'm sorry. I have confused you all a little bit here. See what I mean? There's too much stuff. Okay, what I was just showing you was about molding paste. And that was different. You're using light molding paste.
Well, I guess I was not looking when you did the molding paste. I wasn't watching you.
Okay. No worries. Okay, so there's this molding paste that I showed you, and this is the stuff.
Oh, that, you put the stuff in. I saw that.
Yeah, so this is a marble dust stuff. It's very slippery and smooth, and it's great for the open acrylic because you can take your open and move it around. But and I did ask you. This is my fault for forgetting what I asked you guys to do, but yeah, light molding paste. I did. Yes, I see light molding paste. That's one that, but both of them can be sprayed. Both of them can be sprayed, and they will accept water, and then the water will move the paint around on it. But you can also just paint regularly on them. It's just too much to remember here. But I get a pass because we're all struggling with the pandemic, right? Yeah. Okay. My excuse. as you're working, I am hoping that, you know, what you've learned in this class is, you know, I mean, it is a learning curve. It is new. I remember how, you know, I really struggled to make sense of all of this when I learned it, you know, and it took me months, years, you know, to figure out what I want to do with this, you know, medium. So, yeah, this is, you know, really an introduction, and I hope that it inspires you to try more new things, that it inspires you to figure out, you know, how this can work with what you're trying to do in your art. And also to know that, you know, that library of videos is super helpful. That is a great thing to know about because, you know, it will help to answer these questions you may have forgotten. It will be easy to forget all this stuff, especially if you're not using, you know, a particular gel or medium, you know, and you decide a couple months from now to go look to do it, you may be stuck, but you can always find that stuff on the videos or on YouTube, you know. Phyllis, yeah? No question? Okay, all good.
I have this is the, I don't know if you can see this. This is the, what is this?
Oops, I muted you by mistake, Terry. I'm sorry, can you unmute yourself? I was trying to spotlight you.
Ah,
Okay, go ahead, yes, yeah.
this is the one with the light
Molding.
molding paste that I
Yeah.
picked up, and it's kind of, it looks like it has possibilities. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Did you spray it with water?
No.
Okay, so you can, that's one that is water absorbent. And you
Yeah.
can see it now a little bit in places and you can see, you know, how that changes the paint. The paint will start to sink into it.
Yep.
So it's textural too, yeah. And again, you know, to answer your question about the molding paste and this one, there can be textural.
Yeah.
What I've done with the molding paste, you know, is to sort of cover up the weave of canvas because I don't like canvas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so you can put it on very, very thinly and just kind of cover, you know, cover over that area. Or you can, you know, add it to your paints to give it them a little bit more body, or use it to make stencils with. You know, there's just, you know, an endless number of ways to use them.
Mine was on a very thin, even piece of even molding paste because I got that night that
The knife, yeah.
so it's sort of, you know, doing I sprayed it. It's got a sort of a watercolory feel to it.
Yes, exactly, Prilla. Yep, yeah. It's a very different surface. And it doesn't look like acrylic. You know, it really has a quality of looking like watercolor, frankly, right? Because of the way it appears.
Interesting.
How did you apply it? With a brush?
No, with a knife, with a cake spreader.
Oh, okay.
One of these.
Okay.
This is a very great tool to have. Yeah, we love these.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to do anything with this acrylic like we've been doing in here, I would really recommend it. They come in a couple of different sizes, and it's really the only way to apply these things smoothly. You know, it just is really hard otherwise. You know, a little paint palette knife just doesn't work.
So should we do the same sort of thing on the pumice gel?
Yeah, exactly. Spray it with water, play with, you know, your paint sinking in, play with them, you know, on the surface. I mean, it's really, you know, we have just a little bit more time in our class, but, you know, it's just kind of wrapping up everything. Does anyone have any other questions that, you know, really,
Did you record today?
I did. I am recording it. So I will send that out so people can review it and see the videos that are attached in here. Yeah, so do you, how do you feel? How does everybody feel here? Do you feel like overwhelmed or inspired? I hope you're probably going to feel overwhelmed. Everybody feels overwhelmed. It is a lot to learn and a lot to take in. You know, it is a whole medium unto itself. You know, I used to think, like I said at the beginning of this class, I used to think I could teach acrylic just the way I teach oil, but now with all these new things, it's really a separate medium. you know, there's some things that are similar, but so much that isn't. So it's a lot to take in, definitely.
I'm going to really miss these Wednesday mornings.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll have to paint.
But I don't understand. I'm trying to pick up with a paper towel some of this open that I put on the fiber paste, and it's not coming up at all.
Well, the fiber paste is probably, you know,
No, not fiber paste. I mean the coarse molding.
yeah, because you know why, it's getting
It's
into
so
the
absorbent.
absorbency. Yeah, that's not one of the ones that really works well with pulling it away. It was my fault.
Oh, it's the wrong. We did.
Yeah, I was talking about the open. I was talking about the molding paste, and not I could just, yeah, I got confused. So no, it won't come up easily from any of these textural ones, but it will come up easily from the molding paste.
Yeah.
Molding paste, yeah.
Yeah, so you can blot in and get sort of a little bit more texture.
Yes, yes, you can still do that. Yeah, but it's just going to be a different thing.
Light molding paste, and that doesn't work very well, right?
No.
I don't think it does anything much on the coarse pumice gel.
No, it doesn't. Again, it's my fault for thinking you were talking about molding paste. Yeah, molding paste is the one that will allow you to pull up, kind of do technique. Thank you.
So why would you paint on coarse pumice gel? It looks so ugly.
It's when you spray it. Remember how we saw the paint sort of spread out on it?
Yeah.
You know,
There's gorgeous things. Look.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely an experimental surface. And here's the other thing. A lot of these products were designed for very particular needs that certain artists had. They asked for it as a custom product. And, you know, people at Golden decided that they would make it available to everybody. So they're very esoteric. Yeah. You know, it's good to know about them. Probably a lot of people would never use this, but, you know, you might think about how, you know, you maybe could use it. Yeah. That's true. It's so much that they make is, you know, some artist had asked them for a special product, and then it became something that they decided to make commercial. So, all right, I think we're going to stop now, unless anyone else has questions or issues. It's been delightful to work with you. I'm hoping that it's, you know, I can go away inspired. You know, feel free to drop me an email if you have specific questions, but again, feel free to call Golden because they really are, you know, essentially the people that'll ask, you know, they'll be able to tell you, you know, some of these questions that I don't know about for sure. A lot more depth of technical expertise. So,
Thank you, Adria. Fabulous.
Thank you, Adria.
Great. Thank you.
Take good care of yourself, everyone, and
yes,
stay healthy.
Yes,
Yes,
let's all do
everybody.
that. Stay healthy for sure.
Happy Valentine's Day too. You know, throw that one in.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Adria.
Thanks, Adria.
Bye-bye.